Hey everybody, welcome back to JT channel, and I'm finally doing Halloween stuff in October, and I'm starting it all off with my review for VHS Halloween, which came out yesterday on Shudder. I didn't have time to watch it yesterday, so I watched it at 5:30 in the morning. Don't ask. I really wanted to make sure that I saw it as soon as I could after it came out, because as I've said in the past, I don't know if I've said it on the channel, but I sure hope I have, the VHS movies are some of my favorite consistent horror things going on right now. I don't even know what to call it. It's a horror franchise, right? But every movie is different, and I think there's been callbacks to other movies in the past. And of course they're anthology films, so it's like 5 or 6 movies in one. So it's hard to call it a franchise, but that's what it is. And to me, it's the most consistently good franchise. I know VHS Viral, I know, but even there are bits of VHS Viral that I do enjoy. I do think that the trilogy of year movies, I guess you want to call them, the period pieces, 99, 94, and 85, are the best of the VHS movies, while the OGs 1 and 2 are always going to be brilliant. And then, of course, we just talked about Viral. So this is a completely different one, obviously. It's not based on a year, and it's not just called VHS either. So how was VHS Halloween? The short version, the non-spoiler review, in case you want to go watch it for yourself, is that it was really good, okay? Again, I cannot stress how much I just love this franchise. But I think my expectations were a little too high. I don't think there were any problems, quote unquote, with it. I'm not going to sit here and complain like other people I've seen about, oh, it's just not as good. If I were to rank the VHS movies, it may not break the top 3. I just said that the period movies were my favorite, so that's 1, 2, 3 right there. And maybe someday I'll actually rank them, but I think my expectations were really high, because I almost forgot about Beyond. I'm so sorry. Beyond is also one of my favorites. So it's hard for me to say if this was a good movie. It was a good movie. But if you're going in with your usual VHS expectations, where, you know, if you're like me and you just love these movies, should lower them a little bit, because I don't even know how, again, I don't know how to explain it, maybe because it was so early in the morning, but overall, I'd say it's an 8 or a 9 out of 10, maybe like a 4-star movie, and I'll explain along the way what I think. So your spoiler-free review, which I know is I just kind of babbled, but here in the first 3 minutes, I'm just going to tell you that you should watch it and form your own opinion, but don't have your expectations as high as I did. I'm not saying you'll be let down, but by the end of it, you're like, okay, maybe I should have had my expectations more medium, more somewhere in the middle. So, time for the spoiler review. Spoilers from this point on. I'm going to talk about each segment, starting with the wraparound, the framing segment, the one that's in between each movie, and then I'll talk about the segments in order. So, spoiler warnings and maybe even trigger warnings, just in case some of this stuff disturbs you and you don't even want to hear me talk about it. I, again, highly recommend going to watch it first. So the movie begins with this company called the Octagon Company, and they're going to be the framing device for the VHS series this time. And what it is they are making a soda called Diet Phantasma. The idea is that they've somehow gotten, I don't want to say ectoplasm, but some sort of ghostly stuff in it. In the very final clip of the entire movie, during the credits, when they show who directed Diet Phantasma, it cuts to a commercial for the soda where it says "made with real poltergeists." So that's basically what it is. They're trying to market this soda that's going to have like real phantoms in it, and it's also going to help them control people's minds. Again, something you find out in one of the last segments for Diet Phantasma. They get this little girl finally possessed, and she does what they tell her to. But before all that, every time they're in this big facility, and every time they get someone in, and they're in like an orange jumpsuit, and they put wires on their head and stuff, and they try to get them to try the soda, something absolutely ballistic happens. The first segment, the guy's drinking it, and he freaks out, and then like, I want to call them tentacles, but they're too small. They're more like just little ropes. But little tentacles grab his face, and the can smashes into his face, and blah, blah, blah. It's fairly disturbing, fairly gory. It's more like black goo. And then the next few segments are all like from this segment. Every clip from this segment, Diet Phantasma, is just worse than the last. Every time someone tries a soda, they die. Someone pukes up black blood. Someone's face basically melts off. One of the cans opens on its own, and the little tab breaks off. It flies across the room and cuts their throat. I giggled at that. I don't know why I thought it was funny. Like, I heard a noise, and then the camera did the because you were supposed to be like, oh, something's flying around the room, which doesn't make sense for found footage, but don't worry about it. And then the little tab was on the window while blood was splurting all over the window, and I just giggled. I was like, that's silly. There's a lot of silliness in this one, so it's worth it, though, because it's a VHS film, and it's based around Halloween. Eventually, there is a little boy who's drinking it, and he said he's fine. They're like, okay, good. He wants another one. They're like, okay, did we finally get it? But then the scientist, the guy in charge, gets mad because he seems to have no effect, and clearly they want some kind of effect. And he starts drinking a second one. The camera cuts to the other room where they're watching, and then there's an explosion. There's blood everywhere. So the little boy explodes, literally. And then there's like a room full of them at one point where a bunch of shit happens, and that's where the little girl finally gets possessed, and it starts to work. So that's Diet Phantasma. It's fun. Like I said, it's a little silly. They're trying to put poltergeists in soda. And during the credits where they run down each movie is when you get a commercial for the soda. And that's when you find out that it worked and the little girl is possessed and she's part of the commercial. Overall, I like it. I think, again, it was really fun. It was really unique. It kind of sets the tone for the rest of the movie because you're going to get some silliness and you're going to get some gore. Then we jump into... And I was talking to myself, preparing for this video, talking about how I thought about each segment, and I kept forgetting that the first segment is called Coochie Coochie Coo, Don't Laugh at Me. I had to say WrestlePalooza a million times, I'll be all right. So this segment starts off with these two girls, they're like 17, 18, they're going to go trick-or-treating for the last time, they're smoking weed, duh. And some kids scare them, tell them that the mommy's going to get you, and they're like, that's a myth, whatever. That's always bad, right? Whenever in a VHS segment it starts off like that, you know it's going to be good. So the girls, they go trick-or-treating, they steal candy, they scare kids, they act like teenagers. I don't know how else to tell you. The one girl, like, twerks on one of those blow-up ghost things. It's stupid. But eventually they are sitting outside, just hanging out, and they see a house that they forgot. Now it's obvious because a little girl, like, a family walks by the house, and they don't acknowledge it, meaning that they're the only ones that see it. It's pretty obvious this house popped up out of nowhere. They go to trick or treat. A hand comes out after they walk away from the door because no one answered. Tries to entice them to come in. They go in, and it's old. It's creepy. There's milk on the floor everywhere, and then there's dolls. It's an old house, whatever. So they start to try to figure out what's going on, and one girl's super scared. The other one is like trying to say it's clearly a haunted house, which I will say, before I get further, I think is a good idea. I think it'd be cool, and I'm sure they exist, and I'm just dumb. If there's like houses where you trick or treat at, but you have to like walk through a haunted house to get the candy, I thought that'd be a cool concept. But anyway, so they're walking around, and they eventually see this woman who looks decrepit, and she keeps saying coochie coochie coo, and they can't get a good look at her, but she's creepy as fuck. That's all you know so far. Eventually, they run into a large, overweight man dressed as a baby. I do not know how else to put it to you. And he's got chubby cheeks, like really chubby cheeks. Like you're supposed to notice how chubby they are. Then they eventually do find the woman. And again, please, I tried to warn you about spoilers and triggers. The woman is like facing away from them, which I'll give VHS a lot of credit. They did a lot in this movie where you saw someone or you saw something from one side and you were always nervous to see the other side. They played on it really well in the final segment, and we'll get there. But I forgot where I was. Anyway, she turns around, and it turns out she basically has 6 boobs that are all drained and dripping milk, and it's disturbing as shit. They run away, and they find this girl that went missing. And, hold on. Okay, focus. Missing girl. They find a missing girl upstairs. They talked about her earlier in the clip. And she, of course, chubby cheeks, and she starts saying mama, then she starts screaming because that's not her mama. Eventually, They run around. They try to get away. They can't. The door is completely missing. The only door they find doesn't lead anywhere. Eventually, the mother, mommy, whatever you want to call her, shows up, breaks the one girl's back, or at least cracks it a certain way where she can't walk as well, because she is walking, just not very well. They go to hide, and then wherever they hide at, they can hear a lullaby playing, and it causes the girl that just got her back basically broken, to pass out. The mom, the mother, whatever you want to call her, comes in, drags that girl away, and then the other girl decides she's going to go find her. So she goes to find her, and she goes into this room where there's the missing girl and the guy, and then another girl they ran into at one point who was hooked up to a mask and just had milk constantly going through. You could tell she was choking on it because it was too much. They're all in the room with the other girl who is laying on the mom's lap, she's sitting in a chair, all her stuff hanging out. I'm not going to talk about it again. And her cheeks are now chubby. So whatever she did only takes a few seconds, apparently, to work. So she's over there and she's smiling and everything, and the lullaby's playing, and the mother is singing. And then the other girl eventually sets the camera down, goes and lays down on her lap, and then the girl, the mom or whatever, just starts laughing, and the tape just cuts. So as far as that one goes, I kind of felt like, well, obviously the story, if you haven't seen the movie, you're just watching this review to get an idea, sounds disturbing, kind of disturbing to watch. It didn't impact me that much. I thought it was good. I thought the concept was fantastic, but it didn't unsettle me any, which I guess is okay. I also have watched a ton of horror movies in my life. But again, kind of like Diet Phantasma, this does kind of set the tone, because Diet Phantasma, the first skit, the one with like the tentacles and the can crushing and blood and black goo, followed by this whole segment, kind of gets you an idea that this is going to be creepy, it's going to be really weird, kind of silly. You kind of figure it out from the beginning and the first segment, what you're getting yourself into. And then we get to As Above, So Below. It's in a different language, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it. I'm going to try, actually I am going to try so you guys know what the segment's called. Ut Cipra Sic Infra. I believe that's Spanish. After we have the next Diet Phantasma skit, it cuts to police photos of people with their bones broken, somebody's head was turned completely the other direction, and all the bodies have their eyeballs ripped out and there's blood everywhere. And they're talking to, the overlays are talking to this guy named Enrique, who survived and who was there. And it's all in Spanish, but there's subtitles, so don't worry. All right? Bad Bunny's not going to come after you. I'm sorry. No politics on the channel. But they're talking to him, and he claims that it's his fault. He did it. And the agent, I guess, is very rightfully being like, that's not possible. These people have their bones broken and their eyeballs gouged out. You're saying you did all this. And they keep trying to talk to him. He says he doesn't remember anything. So eventually, they take him back to the building where this happened. And it's intercut with phone video taken from whenever this happened, which throughout it's basically just this big party, a bunch of people going to this haunted place or this building. And again, it's back and forth between the police force and Enrique, and then the video from the night of the incident. So they go in this huge building, they go through a tunnel, and they go in this room where it's got like hieroglyphs that are upside down, and of course, the phrase "as above, so below" in Spanish, also written upside down. And in the video from before, Enrique says it 3 times, and then this phone that wasn't there, according to the girl Vicky, that wasn't there when she checked it out the first time, starts ringing. Enrique answers it, and then he starts shaking violently. Everyone starts screaming, the camera falls, and it cuts. That's the original video. Now the police are trying to figure out what the hell happened, and they have Enrique, of course. They have the phone with them and everything. They set it up, and they have Enrique reenact every single thing he did because they're trying to figure out what happened. I don't mean to blow through this, but the first part's really kind of boring because it's just the pictures and the interview. So they get there, and Enrique says the phrase 3 times, and then the phone starts ringing again. And the cops are all like, "Oh, it shouldn't ring. It doesn't have a cord or a battery." And they're like, and the main agent is like, "It's probably got like a fake bell in it or something." So one of the people, the lawyer, answers the phone, and she's like, "There's nothing there." Then Enrique starts shaking violently again, but this time, at one point, he talks about how his stomach hurts, and I was like, "Oh no, is he gonna like?" No, his stomach was hurt because he had eyeballs in there. Again, it seems silly when you say it. In practice, I thought it was cool looking. He just starts throwing up eyeballs, the eyeballs of the people from before, of course. And then he starts, clearly he's possessed. He sends each person to the ceiling. So they're, so they're all laying on the ceiling. He walks out the door, and then he walks in a door on the ceiling. As above, so below. Now the room is basically flipped. Now all the things right side up, whatever. And then you watch Enrique. You only see a couple bodies in the background, and then the woman holding the camera. Of course, you're as close to her face as you can be because it's a VHS movie, and you watch him gouge everybody's eyes out. I hate to be simple, but that's what he does. And then this part made me laugh because the demon that's possessing him decides to only turn off the gravity for the camera and like one of the cops' nightsticks. So the camera falls to the ground and the nightstick falls to the ground. And I even said out loud, wait, wouldn't the gravity just have everything fall at once? And then all the bodies fall to the ground. So that explains why the bodies had their bones broken and their eyes were gone, because something is possessing Enrique every time that phone is answered. I think that just kind of ends there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where it ends. You just see all the bodies hit the ground and then it just cuts. So Ut Cipro Sic Infra was probably my favorite. It's at least tied for my favorite. I thought it was, again, the beginning, setting up the world, the story. It might lose you because it's kind of like a procedural drama, crime drama, where they're interviewing some guy, and the acting is really good. Like, it's fantastic. But once everything starts to happen, and then when you see it in real time, because, again, the video from the party gets cut off, whereas this all happens right in front of you. But I thought it was cool, pretty much straight out the gate with all the blood and stuff. So overall, again, probably tied for my favorite segment from this VHS. The next two segments in a row, I'm going to try to warn you about, because I'm going to be talking about stuff that I might have to do this to give myself a second. Because the next two segments, well, the next one was hilarious in hindsight. It did kind of make me go, ooh. And then we'll talk about the next one when we get to it. So the next one is called Fun Size. This is, it's for teenagers, adults. I can't tell how old they were, but they went to a Halloween party. They wanted candy. There was none because it was an adult Halloween party. They drank, but they wanted to do something else. So they start going trick-or-treating, stealing candy from kids. They're assholes. They're all just assholes. Two of the characters, well, it's two couples. It's two guys and two girls. One couple just got engaged, and the other one are just dating. And the guy keeps calling his wife fiance. That's all he'll say is fiance. And there's a reason. I'm talking about this for a reason. They take candy from one house, and he's calling her. Oh, they go to the first house, and they get candy, and they find out the old couple that's giving out candy finds out that they're engaged or whatever, and they're like, oh, so they get candy. And then the two guys walk off, and the two girls start talking, and it turns out that the girl that's engaged was supposed to break it off, but she hasn't had the courage to yet, and now she's uncomfortable because he only calls her fiance. So they talk about that for a minute. It seems like it's unimportant, but there's a whole really funny moment later on. Again, maybe my humor is just really dark. But they go to this house, and it's one of those where the bowl is on the table, and it says one per person. And none of the candy has any legitimate names. It's all weird names, stuff they've never heard of. They're Googling it, and they're like, none of this is, what is this? This isn't real, what the fuck? Or they can't figure out what candy it is. So they're looking at it. I don't remember any of the names of the candies, but they open one, and it's as soon as it was revealed, as soon as it happened, I just knew that this segment was going to be something else. They open it, and it is straight up in the shape of a dick. That's what it is. And they're all joking about how, oh, whatever, I can't believe they did that, and they take a bite of it, whatever, and it's just chocolate, whatever. But then they go to the one guy, not the guy that's engaged, so it's the other gentleman, goes to reach for a second piece, and a hand comes out and grabs him. They're like, oh, that's scary. And then it pulls him into the bowl. And then it pulls the other guy into the bowl. And then the girls run away as the guys are, one of the guys had the camera. They get pulled into the bowl, and there's nothing underneath the table. So like, what the fuck? So the girls run away, and they try to be like, and in a moment that will make you laugh, and you might have to pause the movie because you're laughing too hard. They turn around, and the candy bowl is coming at their face like that thing from, Phantasm. If you know, you know. If you don't know, don't worry about it. Again, that looked a little silly, but how serious is a candy bowl coming at your face supposed to look? Now, given it continues, because it turns out they're in some warehouse. They're trying to figure out where they are. I kept making jokes about the back rooms. And they're an empty warehouse. The candy bowl's on the other side of the place. They go to it, and in the bowl is nothing but the one per person sign. So obviously they broke the rule, grabbing more than one piece of candy. And then the framing of this is great. The dude that got pulled in first is standing in a spotlight right in front of the bowl, and the way they framed it, he's right in the middle, and I thought like something was going to drop or come up or he was going to explode. No, something comes from the roof and pours on his head. It's literally caramel. He pronounces it caramel. If that matters to you, it doesn't matter to me. I used to pronounce it that as well. But they eventually run into this character. It's just some guy with a cartoonish head and like a crown. It's red. It's got a smiley face on it. He's wearing a crown. And he just keeps saying fun size every time they see him. Fun size, and they run off. Eventually, the dude that got covered in caramel gets like grabbed and disappears. And they go to find him in this room where he's tied down to a conveyor belt. And there's fun music playing, and they try to shut it off, but everything just either turns on a sign or has confetti. They're trying to break the restraints. They go to grab a machete. It's fake. They go to grab an axe. It's real, but they don't get it in time. And while on the outside, all you see from the outside, sorry, I have to keep pausing this, is the blades inside the conveyor, inside the machine, and blood going everywhere. So clearly he's being cut up. For some reason, there's TVs where you can see inside of the machine. I don't. VHS. And you see his eye, like one of his eyeballs. You see his tongue. And then you see exactly what you think you see. I don't even know what else to say. You see exactly what you think you see. It's all of the male members' parts, and then it has to stop and get cut in half because you need both as separate. And then you watch them get covered in caramel and chocolate and stuff. So clearly, this is a place where if you take more than one piece of candy, your body gets cut up into candy. They go to run off. The one girl, I guess her girl, it's the guy's girlfriend, the guy that just got killed. His girlfriend does she run off? I don't remember. There was a lot of running away and getting captured in these segments. And basically they go to find her, and she has a tube that has those little pieces of candy, little circle pieces of candy. She trips. They pour the circle pieces of candy, little gumdrops or whatever. She trips, and they kidnap her. The guy and his little minion, who also looks ridiculous, but his head is a little scarier looking. I'm sorry, my allergies are acting up, and my daughter is being a 3-year-old. She's almost 3. Anyway, so she has the tube with the gumdrops stuck up her ass. So I'm just going to start saying stuff because this video is taking even longer than I was expecting it to. And they turn it on, and her face basically explodes with the candy coming out like a fountain. She's still alive. She climbs up the conveyor belt because she just wants to die. So the other two, the engaged couple, try to escape. They can't. The only door they find, they get open, and it just says one per person on the wall. So they go through an air vent, which turns out to be a conveyor belt. And this is where the funny thing happens. The guy decides to try to do their wedding stuff in the vent just in case they die. And he asks her, do you take me to be your lawfully wedded husband? And she says, I don't, which is funny just because you chose right now. And then he gets, there's blades coming down, he gets cut up and he dies. I think she almost escaped. She comes out the other side of the air vent, and she's in like a big open industrial area, and she thinks she's safe, but then you hear fun size. She turns around, he's right there, and he just does this, and you see blood, and then it cuts. So, crushed her head. Then very suddenly, we cut to a woman being like, hey kids, grab the candy, let's go. And I'm like, I was confused. I thought we were going back to Diet Phantasma. I thought we were going to, I was like, oh, are we just jumping to the next segment? No, it's still the same segment. The kids are up there. They're like, this candy, we've never heard of any of it. And they're like, it's fine, just be generous. And then the two little kids walk up, and the kid's like, it said one, I took two, is that okay? And the mom turns around with the camera, and the candy bowl's coming at them now. So, again, the premise is you take more than one piece, you're going to get turned into candy. This was fine. Again, it's disturbing because you have to watch a man's dick and balls, again, I'm just going to say it, get cut off, cut in half, and turned into candy. I don't get weirded out by that stuff, but watching that with the tongue and the eye and everything, it's not for everybody. You know, it was a little unexpected, but I did enjoy the premise. I love the characters, the fun-size characters. The dude with the big red head and his little minion, they were great. Again, I don't know. It was fine, but I was kind of like, ugh, and then I was like, oh. I just enjoyed it from that point forward. So then after the next Diet Phantasma, we have the next segment's called Kid Print. Now, this is the one where I'm going to say you probably need the most warning. Because before I watched the movie, I am a part of a couple different horror groups on Facebook, and I have seen people I saw one guy this morning before I watched the movie go as far to say that the director of Kid Print should be arrested. It's not that bad. It really isn't bad enough to call for his arrest. This person is clearly just kind of a bitch and can't handle horror movies. The word kid is in it. It does involve children. And again, it may just not be for you. So last warning. So this one starts off, what Kid Print is it's a service that this one guy named Blake. No, Tim. His name's Tim. Why did I thought his name was Blake? He's not the bad guy. Okay, you might think he is at first because he comes off as that sweet gentleman that would end up being the bad guy. But his whole thing is it's the 90s and kidnappings are big, kids are going missing. So he started this thing called Kid Print where he takes a picture and a video of your child and then sends it to you so that if your kid goes missing at the current time, you don't have a picture of them as 4 or 5 years younger and they're looking for something you don't have. So he's trying to revolutionize more modern photos for kids. And he's a genuinely good guy. And he's just trying to do this thing. He's got 2 daughters of his own. He takes something home for them. You hear about more kids going missing along the way, like from radios and stuff like that. And every now and then, there's random like little moments where it cuts to a kid screaming or bloody and screaming from the same angle that he was shooting the videos from earlier. So that's why you start to get a little, what's he doing? Is it him? And you meet the rest of his crew, which there's a woman, there's kind of a creepy looking guy, and then there's this other dude that is the one who like rummages through the videos, finds where to take the pictures and stuff like that. So that's all important for later. And they go to this Halloween party in the park that's being run by the police department because kids keep going missing. And while they're there, they find out that another kid went missing. I think while they're at the party they find out. And they say that the girl, I think her name might be Olivia, was one of the kids that came in to do a kid print. So the cops asked Tim, can you go back to your warehouse or to your store and get the video of her so we can have a good description of what she looks like and go find her. He's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. I'll go do that right now. So he shows up, and of course he has those like garage doors that buildings used to have, and it's teepee. So he takes the teepee off, he opens it. He comes inside, and of course he hears screaming, and it's all dark, and he's like, what the fuck's going on? He thinks it's Miles, I think is the dude's name. I'm really sorry if I get these names wrong. Watching like a horror movie or whatever. But he comes around the corner, and where the other guy, Bruce, was sitting, he's a heavier set black guy who also seems very sweet. Where he usually does his job, there's no one there, but there's videos playing, and they're red, and they're of kids in front of the kid print background, screaming, begging for help, yada, yada, yada. So we get to that. Tim is trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and he sits down to try to figure it all out, try to figure out what's going on, and this is where it gets disturbing because it starts to intercut between looking at Bruce, looking at these videos, or Tim looking at these videos, just being absolutely shocked and trying to figure out what to do. And it cuts to someone in a mask, a hood and stuff, skinning these kids. Okay, now it's none of the really young ones, I don't think. I don't think you see any of that. But you see teenagers and young teenagers at least. You see him just taking their skin off. That's all he's doing. He's like cutting off skin off their arms, their legs, their faces, their backs. Never explains why he's doing this, but that's a VHS movie for you. You don't always get explanations. Eventually, Tim goes and finds, I think, Olivia, who has like a gash in her head, and she's screaming at the person holding the camera. The person holding the camera, the person behind all this is Bruce. The sweet, kind of heavy-set black dude that sits in the back and watches these videos. He's kidnapping these kids. I don't know why. Again, I don't know why he's doing what he's doing. He keeps wearing some of the faces as masks. Him and Tim get into a fight. Tim tries to convince one of the kids that has his face cut off that they need to get out of there. And then he takes another girl, Bruce does, and throws her back there. Her and the boy, who again is probably a teenager, think that Tim is in on it, so they kill him. They stab him and hit him in the head with a hammer until he's dead. You see all this from the camera that Tim was holding. Then her and the boy try to leave. Tim comes back and you hear Bruce say, "Where are y'all going?" And then you hear a bunch of stabbing, squelching, and screaming. And then it cuts to a news broadcast where they found Tim's body and everyone is blaming it on Tim, which I don't know why that bothered me. It's one of those things where the bad guy got away and was able to blame it on someone else. And they interview the girl that worked with him, saying he's always weird. And then of course they interview Bruce, who was like, "Yeah, I don't know, maybe something happened in his childhood, blah, blah, blah." Which is kind of a callback to a certain moment that I forgot to mention where I think while they're killing Tim, while the two kids are killing Tim, Bruce is standing in front of the camera with face on his face. I don't know how to say it. And he's pretending to interview himself. And basically, when he was a kid, he went out trick-or-treating on his own and got kidnapped. And I don't know if he explains what happened to him, but that screwed his head up forever. And, well, there you go. But that's kind of the end of that segment. Is they cut back to Olivia screaming at the camera, and it cuts away. So, again, somebody was so upset by this segment, they called for the director's arrest. Hilarious, in my opinion, that he got that upset about it. If you don't like watching kids die, be careful what horror movies you watch. Okay, I don't know what else to say. It happens, especially nowadays when everyone's so incredibly desensitized to certain stuff. Directors are realizing that kid death like to set people off, like to scare people. It really gets to you. I mean, I have a daughter and a kid on the way, so you would think I wouldn't watch stuff like this, but I know it's just a movie. So I don't really let that stuff get to me. It used to, right? It used to bother me, but now I'm just like, it's just a movie. And plus, I watched Terrifier 3. So that was Kid Print. Again, it's not for everybody. I've seen a lot of responses to it that it was really disturbing. I actually think the next one might have been worse, and that's why I'm like, how did that really get you that badly? So the final regular segment is called Home Haunt. This is, it starts off about a story. The video is a guy with his son, his younger son. He had to be like 9 or 10 in the video, maybe younger. They're getting ready to set up this haunted house. They set up this big wall called Mortis Haunt or something like that. It looks really cool. They built it themselves, and they're watching you're watching them go through this, set the haunted house up. The dad plays Igor, and the son plays Igor Jr. And then you hear a voice say, "Shut it off, shut it off, shut it off." And it turns out that we're watching a video on a TV, and the dad is just filming the TV, basically. And his son, Zach, is now a teenager, 17, 18 years old. And he's sick to fucking death of this. He doesn't want to do it anymore. He keeps calling his dad by his first name, calls him Keith. Says it's bullshit. He doesn't want to end up a loser like his dad. So he walks off, and then he talks to the mom. And the mom's like, "I'll go talk to him." So then they go to get, the dad's in the truck. Here comes Zach. This line delivery was great. He goes, "See, I knew you'd come around." And Zach goes, "No, Mom's just better at blackmail than you." And you have to hear him say it. It's fantastic. They go to this store to buy more spooky stuff for the haunt. And while they're looking around, the dad, who's Keith, I just said his damn name, Keith finds this back room where they're keeping the good stuff. And he opens his trunk and finds this record called Haunted Homes or something. It's not the same name as Home Haunt, as the segment. I just can't remember what it's called now. But he finds a record, sticks it in his bag, steals it. And on the back has this spooky message. It's real, but you don't know. About like, if you play this song, then all the creatures from it's like the song of Sam Hain, and all the creatures will come out to come to roost. I don't fucking know. Anyway, it's supposed to be a real warning, but of course it's the disc looks silly, or the packaging does. So anyway, so they open the haunted house. The wall, which is like this monster face with fake little hands, is bigger than it used to be because he's trying to make it more adult. Of course, there's kids, not a whole lot of little kids, more like 10, 11, 12, and then some teenagers. And then there's just one guy who's older with his wife who comes every year just to tell Keith to his face that it's shitty and horrible and he hates it and it's the worst thing ever. So the first group goes in. It's that guy and his wife, a couple of kids, Zach, Keith, and their mom. And they go in, and Keith does this rundown, and the guy, maybe his name's Dennis, I don't know, keeps interrupting him, and he's, giving this great speech about horror haunts and opening a portal and whatever. They go to play this all happens really fast. They play the record, and my first instinct was it's either going to sound silly and then get serious, or it's going to sound serious and they're not going to believe it. It was kind of the second one, because it starts to play this creepy song, and then like the room starts to shake, stuff starts to fall, the disc erupts in flames, or the record does, and they're like, what the fuck was that? They go into the haunted house, the haunted area, and it's like this graveyard. And Keith is like, I don't remember it looking like this. And then these like fake ghosts pop up, like on a little post, it just goes, woo, and it's like a sheet. And the dude's like, dude, this looks like shit, what the fuck? Behind the dude, this massive sheet is rising up behind him. And Keith's like, dude, I didn't do that. That's not one of mine. And the door behind him's locked. The sheet comes down, starts twisting back and forth, and then crushes the dude. Blood starts flying out of the sheet like crazy, like a fountain. Everyone freaks out, starts running around. I think Zach's holding the camera. More of the little fake sheet ghosts are flying around, and you're hearing squelching, bones breaking, stuff like that. So they're running around, flying around, killing people. Then they go into this room that's like an ancient Egyptian tomb area. There's like sarcophagi, I think is the proper plural of that. They start opening, and they're not really mummies. They're more like creepy. They almost look like the things from The Descent. That's what I was reminded of. But they grab this one kid's dad and pull him in, then blood just starts spurting everywhere. The kid who's dressed up like a bee, again, probably 8, 9, 10, he was meant to be younger than a teenager. You have to watch him start getting ripped apart, like his face and his arm gets ripped off before they're able to go through the door and escape. I think another girl also dies. It's the girl that Zach has a crush on. They go to run away, and Zach's like, we can save her, but you literally saw her start to get scalped and her jaw start to get pulled off. And the mom's like, dude, she did. They go further into the haunted house, and they go to a room that is a torture chamber, which was mentioned in the first video, the very beginning when Zach was still a kid. The dad was like, oh, I'm going to build a torture chamber. Ha, ha, ha. Just trying to be a fun dad, but now the torture chamber is real. The girl that went in first is getting electrocuted. The wife of the asshole guy from earlier gets knocked over and gets her head split in half by an axe. Great looking effect. Had to be practical. Eventually they kill the torturer. They kill the executioner, chop his head off. It's down to is it just Zach and his parents now? I think it is. I think it's just Zach and his parents. They go to, and a little girl, an actual little girl, a young, again, probably like 7, 8, whatever. She's still alive. They all go to this room, and they run into a witch, a real witch, who is like trying to do something to the girl, but they try to capture her, and she jumps up and into her cauldron with the little girl. They go to save her, and they pull out her arm. Her face comes up, and all the skin's melting off. So the witch melted the little child. And then the witch comes out and grabs the camera and flies away with the camera. I don't know what happens to Zach and his parents. I don't remember any of them explicitly dying. But the witch flies off with the camera. She's flying around town. She grabs this one girl, random trick-or-treater by her throat, rips her head off and throws it at somebody. Then she's on a broom, and she puts the broom handle through a boy's chest, goes up into the sky, pulls his innards out because it's a VHS movie and you have to just keep going. And then spins around. He goes flying off, and you just see the camera spinning, and the camera hits the ground, and the last thing you see is one of the hands, one of those little fake hands for the monster, crush the wall. And I think you see the monster look at the camera. So like the giant monster's coming to life, and that's when the movie ended. Again, I loved this one. I love the fact that once it got started, it didn't hold back. I've said it before, I'm not a big gore guy, but I thought the effects in Home Haunt were fantastic. It is, again, it's tied. This and the As Above, So Below Spanish speaking one were both, I think, the best ones by a long shot. The thing I like the most about Home Haunt is the tease of a giant monster. The thing I like the least about Home Haunt is the tease of a giant monster, because I love giant monsters. I was hoping we could see it. It's in if you've seen the original teaser, that's like one of the things you see at the end is the hand destroying the wall. And I thought that was a tease that we were going to see like the monster rise, but no, it's just that. You can let your imagination play. Same thing with the Diet Phantasma commercial during the credits. So that is the full rundown of the movie. And each segment, like I said, I liked each segment. Each segment was fine. I just think my expectations are so high from the period trilogy, and now we have this other trilogy that's kind of like on its own. It was Beyond, and now Halloween. It's good. It's good. If it's in my top 5, it's number 5, but I don't know if it is because of how much I love 85, 94, and 99. And the first one, the original VHS. So if you have Shudder, I highly recommend checking it out, at least if you like these movies. Again, I cannot stress enough to keep your expectations on a limit, because I had my expectations, really high because of how much I loved Beyond specifically. I think I did a Beyond review last year. I'm pretty sure I did, and I could not praise that movie enough. So thank you everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Did you like this movie? What do you think of the VHS franchise overall? What do you hope they do next? I've said it before and I'll say it again. I want them to do a VHS 2020, because I think that'd be a great concept. Like, what absolute nonsense was going down when the world was shut down. So I'm not saying they're going to, that's just my idea. I apologize that it's October 4th and I'm just now starting to do spooky stuff, but I'm getting into it. I'm hopefully going to watch a bunch more horror movies. I'm looking forward to watching The Monkey. That's out. There was another one, I can't remember, but I'll do more and more stuff like that. But until next time, this is JT Channel. I am JT, and I will see you in the next one, if I can get around my daughter.